This season on the Living Out Love podcast, we are focusing on you, who you are, what motivates you, what you're here to contribute, and how you can expand. We'll be utilizing my leadership skills and spiritual connection, diving deep into the Enneagram and astrology. Listen every week to become intimately aware of yourself. Only then can you heal and grow. Let's get to work, loves. Hello, loves. Welcome back to the Living Out Love podcast. It has been a minute since I have been here. I've been busy doing the parenthood thing and the the travel thing, the astrology conference. So I've been in my mind, I've been kind of thinking, I've been out of the podcast game for a bit. What am I going to talk about when I first come back? The whole time I've been gone, I've been thinking, what am I going to talk about? What's next? And at the astrology conference, it's based on evolutionary astrology, which evolutionary astrology has the perspective that we come in with certain energy. We could call it past life energy. You don't have to if you don't want to. It has this perspective. We come in with certain energy, certain weaknesses, certain strengths, and that while we're here, our job is to incorporate some other things, to grow towards some other things. And, in evolutionary astrology, that sometimes means moving towards the opposite. But we're here to do our whole chart, right? I love when Suzanne says that. We're here to do our whole chart. And I've been thinking a lot about, astrologically, the chart, evolution. And, my husband's a twin, and I had pulled up his chart and his twin's birth chart, and they're 20 minutes apart. And I was surprised at the amount that's different in their chart, just in 20 minutes. And here's why that's relevant. A Course in Miracles says, we all have our divine curriculum. This is your curriculum. And I believe our astrology chart, our Enneagram, we have all these windows of perspective into what our curriculum is. But I think it highlights, okay, if 20 minutes apart in birth can change your curriculum that much, really? I mean, it truly is. We are here to do, I'm here to do me, you're here to do you, right? We're here to do what we are here to do as individuals. And then I heard on the Natalia Benson podcast, she was quoting somebody else, and now I don't remember the somebody else, but some other astrologer had said that your exact chart, your natal birth chart, cannot happen again for another 4 million years. 4 million years. So whatever it is that you're here to do, you got to do it. You got to do it in the here and the now, because this is your thing, not the person born 20 minutes after you. This is your curriculum, your assignment, your opportunity for growth. That's what you're here to do. So I've been thinking about all of that, this astrology and the charts and how much it changes and what are we here to do. And yes, we have this, in the astrology, there's the nodes, you have this nodal story, but you're supposed to do your whole chart, right? And so I've just been thinking about evolution and what that looks like. And I kept having this memory come to mind when I was sitting in physics class. Um, I had a boyfriend at the time, ex-boyfriend, I don't remember, and we sat next to each other in physics. And I had never really been involved in the Christian Student Union, but this was a year that the WWJD bracelets became a thing. The What Would Jesus Do bracelets become a thing. All my 80s babies are going to remember. Um, and even though I wasn't raised in that kind of traditional conservative biblical background, I really enjoyed the question of what would Jesus do? I thought that it was really helpful for getting me into a frame of mind. I think, what Jesus demonstrates really well for us: compassion, strength, absolute faith um, in the divine. And those are good things to emulate, right? But I've been thinking in the last few years, I've thought this, but I've been getting clearer on it now. The question is not, for me, I don't think the best question is, what would Jesus do? Even if you're a Christian, I'm not even if you're a Christian, I don't think that the best question is what would Jesus do? I think the best question is what would my highest self do? Would my highest self do? Jesus' chart's not going to come around again for another 4 million years or 3.8 whatever years. So we're not here to do what Jesus did. We're here to do what we're going to do. And that doesn't mean that we're not here to have compassion and strength and faith, but we're here to do it the way we're meant to do it, the way I'm meant to do it, the way you're meant to do it. You're growing into yourself. That's what you came here to do. You didn't grow, you didn't come here to try and become Mother Teresa or become Jesus or become Buddha. You came here to become yourself, to demonstrate as yourself. That's what you came here to do. And so I just want to talk about this a little bit more today with just evolution and playing with this question of what would you do? And I phrase the you in terms of your highest self. What would your highest self do? And remember that the way that I define highest self is it's that part of you that is 100% connected to the divine. It is always at peace. It is always loved. It always understands that there's infinite possibilities. It's always in the present moment. Like that part of you. What would that part of you do in a situation? And I think when we're thinking about this question, what would Jesus do? What would you do? What would your highest self do? I kind of liken it to how people in manifestation terms will say for the dress for the job you want, not the job you have. And so it's like you're going to call in the life you want by being the person you would need to be in that life, right? So you can step into that version of yourself before the circumstances reflect it. You can be a person that has been resentful and bitter, and you've played that drum over and over and over again, and it has created relationships and it has created circumstances that reflect reasons to be resentful and bitter over and over again. And you can still step into the version of you that is compassionate and forgiving, that feels whole and safe before your circumstances reflect that you are that person. You can change it. And I was also thinking about this idea of, okay, what would you do? Who is the you that we're asking? Is it the highest self? Who's the you? And I'd like to remind you that you get to decide who that is. I'm going to give you some suggestions and some questions to play with, but this is the land of free will. Yes, there is weather that we all experience. There is collective consciousness that we all experience, but there is a lot of free will within that. So you get to decide. Maybe the evolved version of you, maybe the goal is not compassion and forgiveness. Maybe the goal is that you become more of an action taker. I'm not to say. It's your curriculum and it's your decision. What is it that you are growing into? And so I was thinking, how can I help you get clear on if you were going to consult your own highest self? Right? If the goal is not to ask what Jesus would do, but the goal is to ask what would my highest self do? How can I help you get there? And I had a few things come to mind. One is trying to access the wisdom that you've not allowed yourself to access and just owning it. This could be something like a hidden talent. This could be expertise in a subject that you don't know why you have expertise in, but you just do. Some people were just born astrologers. They don't remember learning astrology, they just know it. I'm not one of those people, but I've been around those people. There's sometimes we are born with knowledge. And if you've not been owning that and stepping into that and finding a place to give that knowledge voice, then that might be a part of what you're here to do. Another kind of aspect of wisdom or talent would be if there is a group of people, whether it's a certain demographic or if it's a group of people in a certain situation or circumstance that you notice you have empathy for in a different way than you have empathy for anybody else, If you notice you feel like you can relate to them, even though it doesn't seem like you have anything in common, that's also something. That's something to investigate, to lean into and go, oh, I kind of get this. I don't know why I get this, but I have empathy for this. I get this. We have different parts of ourselves that have so much wisdom, so much compassion, so much strength. And we just don't always choose to give those parts of ourselves the microphone to what's playing in our brain. And so that's one thing that you could look at is what are the parts of me that I know came in evolved? And what do they have to say in this moment? Another question to ask, this question I like even more, is what would the healed version of me do? Who would you be without your wounds? Suzanne was asking me this a few weeks ago. Who would you be if you just didn't care what other people thought? And I gotta say, my mind went blank. I was like, I don't know. Um, so then I had to get with, okay, I would be a person that understood that my safety is not in the hands of other people's opinions, and that I can trust my own senses to tell me when I'm safe and when I'm not. And I can trust myself to do something about it also. So I was thinking about, okay, if I wasn't so worried about what other people thought, I would definitely have a greater sense of self trust. And one thing that comes to mind, I've been working on it, of like, of stepping into this person that I haven't yet discovered, this person that is so unconcerned with what other people think. And you know what I've discovered? I am a person that wants to dance in public. If I have good music on in my earphones, airport, sidewalk, I don't care. I want to dance. And I let myself embrace that only once so far, but I do think that that version of me, that person that is willing to dance in public, even though it's not cultural norm, I think that is a higher self version of me. For me, that is growth. Now, not for everybody, but for me, that would be growth. Like, who cares? Societal norms are not my thing anyway. Like, who cares? So sit with that, whatever wounds it is you carry that have dictated your behavior for so long, who would you be without those? Another way of asking that question is, who would your who would you be if your past was in the past? It's not here, it's not now. Like that was before. Who are you right now? Another way of getting to, what would you do is looking at who are the people that you would like to emulate? Who are the people that you admire? In what ways are you already like them? Because I guarantee you there are ways that you are already like them if you admire them. It will be there if you look for it. And then what's the opportunity for growth? So one person I really admire is Brene Brown. And I'm a lot like her because I'm fascinated by emotions and emotional intelligence. And I'm a lot like her because I like my views on things to come from science. And often science actually just confirms my spiritual perspective, but I like to have it confirmed. I like to know if should I be skeptical of this thought or not. So I like that she's science based. What I really admire about her is that she's so articulate. She's very articulate and she's very good at breaking down complex statistical ideas into layman's terms. So those are things I admire about her that I would like to emulate. So who's a person that you admire that you have something in common with? Maybe they're a great athlete and you have been a great athlete. Who knows? And w- being aware of, okay, what are you already doing well? That's important to know. Where is your strength in this? And then what's the thing I want to fine tune? And then another thing I want to reflect back to you about the difference between what would you do and what your highest self would do is that we have beliefs, us humans down here in the flesh suits. We have beliefs. Our highest self doesn't believe anything. knows. It knows. So let me demonstrate this. I believe that I'm a likable person, right? Great. My highest self knows that I am loved, that I'm lovable, that nothing I can say or do is ever going to change that because I'm a divine being and there it is. It's inherent. My highest self knows that. It doesn't have to spend any time fretting about it because it's just known. My highest self knows that my self doubt, when used properly, is a gift. I have it because it serves me, because it helps me to be my best self all the time. It helps me to show up with intention because I'm questioning all the time. Again, when used properly. But my highest self knows I don't have to resist it. I don't have to resist that self doubt. I'm designed to have it. It's in my chart. It's just learning how to work with it. My highest self knows that what other people think about me mostly has nothing to do with me. And my highest self knows that no matter what they think, the assignment's the same. The assignment is that I'm supposed to act compassionately towards myself and towards them. The end. The assignment doesn't change. So my highest self gets all that. It gets it the way the world turns, types gets it. When I'm asking myself, what would I do? What would my highest self, Amy, do? All of that is in there. It's like I'm stepping into this whole world where I get to take all that for granted. Because when I'm connecting my highest self, it just gets it. It's like the air we breathe. We don't have to talk about it because it's there. Whereas when I'm asking myself, what would I do? Oh, well, I guess I would probably forgive this person. It's like I have to pander my way there when I'm asking myself, what would I do versus when I connect with my highest self that knows, it knows because it's fully connected to spirit all the time, because it's always at peace, because there's always enough, because there is no such thing as death. Like my highest self knows all that. That's who I want to talk to. And I just want to keep in mind that, you know, the question, what would Jesus do? Or what would you do? It's a valuable question. It's valuable to take a pause and ask, what's the evolved version of me going to do here? Because life is life. Curveballs, challenges, even deeply beautiful opportunities. You have free will within those opportunities. It's worth asking. What's the healed version of me look like in this situation? What's the evolved version of me? And another thing I want to point out that's it's pretty, heady and esoteric, but just hang in there with me. When we're in the human plane doing the human things, we experience and talk about time as a linear phenomenon. I don't believe time is actually linear. I think, sure, we're here, we're meant to experience it that way in a lot of respects, but I don't think it's linear. And I don't think we understand, do our souls exist in multiple universes at multiple times? I don't think we get all that, but I know it's not linear. Even our emotions can respond to the past. I can be feeling something very real, very presently, right here, right now, just thinking about something that happened 20 years ago. So even if time is linear, my experience of it's not linear. Here's the reason why I bring that up. I believe that if we can access our past, if we can do inner child work, if we can somehow connect with our ancestors, then we can also access our future self or some of the potentials of our future self. It's just reasonable to think that, in my opinion. So I would like to just plant that seed that there is a part of you that is connected to your divine potential. There is a part of you that is your divine potential that you can connect with. This part of you has already been through let's say you're about to enter a 10-year period of lots of change and blah, blah, blah. There's a part of you that's on the other side of that 10 years that you can connect with that will say, oh, yeah, you're going to really wish you had more water or you had meditated or whatever. Like you can access that wisdom from a future version of you. I absolutely believe that. Just keep that in mind with the whole idea that I'm proposing of what would you do? This is your chart. You're here to be you. Well, you can access that. A lot of people will do, meditations or self-hypnosis that takes them to a future self and says, what do you see? Where are you? What's happening? That's what we're doing. We're connecting with a potential outcome and getting that perspective, that wisdom. It's the same thing. And I also believe in this divine, chaotic universe that we live in. It's the ask and you shall receive. So shall it be given for the phrase. Um, I don't believe that there's ever a need without a supply. Ever, 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 ever. There's never an there's a possibility for an unmet need, sure. But there's always a solution to the question. There's always a supply for the need. Always. We live in an infinite universe. There's no way that there isn't. And we forget that, absolutely. But why I bring that to the conversation is because if you're in a situation where you're asking yourself, what would I do? And you're asking it in a way that is going to break the pattern of what you've typically done, you know, that takes extra energy, extra faith, extra bravery. And so I'm just pointing out to you that because there is no such thing as an unmet need, you have what you need in order to step into that evolved version of yourself. You absolutely have what you need to step into that person. I'm not guaranteeing that you're going to wake up tomorrow and feel like the Dalai Lama, far from it. But I think it's easily possible that you could wake up tomorrow and have moments of feeling like the Dalai Lama and have moments of understanding that type of empathy, understanding that type of joy and presence. Absolutely, that's available to you. So we're here, each of us, with these assignments, these birth charts, these Enneagram types, your human design, whatever it is that you like to look at. We all have our own things, not to be repeated for another 4 million years. What do you want to do with that? When things come up today, tomorrow, what would your highest self do in this situation? And maybe you want to look at your chart and see what your chart's asking you to do. Maybe you want to talk to an Enneagram coach, maybe you want to talk to your counselor, but getting clear on the evolved part of me, the part of me that's fully connected to the divine at all times. What does that part of me want to do in this situation? Because that is who I came here to be. I came here to be me. And I'm just moving more and more towards me all the time. And I recognize that me is the part of me that's fully connected to the divine while being in the human world, physical world. I recognize that me is the part of me that just doesn't have the veil of separation between myself and others, that doesn't have the veil of linear time, that doesn't have the veil of trauma, of patterning, even neuropatterning, family patterning. Your divine self doesn't have that veil. So that's what I got for you today, loves. Feels so good to be back. I'm going to hop off and record another podcast because so much has happened since I've been here recording. I hope you guys are having a lovely October, and I'll talk to you soon. Let's get to work, loves. Thank you for listening to the Living Out Love podcast. If this episode was helpful for you, there are 3 ways that you can share the love.
You can send this episode to family, friend, neighbor. Leave me a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform, or comment and ask questions on YouTube. This season is meant to be interactive. Thanks again for your presence. I appreciate you being here. Talk to you next week, loves.